Hi, I'm O.Sabido, a teacher in one of the private Catholic institutions in the city. I'm a paper crane hobbyist and a certified plant parent. For this year, sa Artivism 4.0, I have decided to contribute through paper folding. Japanese paper folding captures the evanescence of beauty and of things symbolically represented by folded paper. Unlike sculpture, paintings, and other forms of visual art, ang origami is more fragile and momentary. It invites us to see beauty in the passing of things. And I guess that's what we hope to happen in this pandemic. For the pandemic to pass and for us to live our lives normally again. The initial idea or the concept for the piece was a depiction of the 8 months of our struggles, of the city being put in quarantine and of the country being put in quarantine. Originally, the piece was called Ang Walong nga Luha sang Tulabong. However, in the process of thinking ways to improve the piece, I have realized na it's actually more than 8 months na gali na we are under quarantine and that we are fighting this battle against COVID-19. And so, I told myself, what if I will not dwell much on the struggles and instead look at the pandemic from a different angle or different perspective? I wanted to take a look at the pandemic as an invitation for ourselves as individuals, sa aton as an Ilonggo people, and I think for the Filipinos as a whole. It's an invitation for us to reflect on whatever learnings and general what the pandemic has brought upon us. In the exhibit for Artivism 4.0, the piece is called The Flock. The term flock or the concept of the flock means a group of animals, usually birds, that congregate or gather together most oftentimes to migrate. In this case, the flock refers to the group of cranes, which is symbolically depicting kita nga mga tao, we Ilonggos, we Filipinos. And migration is defined as movement from one place to another. In the case of the flock, which is the piece for this exhibit, the entire piece, migration here is a metaphor for our almost year-long migration from the old normal to the new normal, and now our desire to transition to a better time, when and where COVID-19 is already beaten. Aside from the collective migration, in the piece, the term migration also depicts our individual migration, our individual journeys, our individual travels, the movements within ourselves. Kaya as important as migrating collectively as a people is our migration sa aton mismo nga mga selves. Kaya the migration that happens, the movements that happen inside us, influence primarily our decision to join in the collective migration. The colors I've chosen for the piece are colors taken from our Philippine flag. These are red, yellow, and blue. The cranes appear to be heading the same way, same direction, but they've chosen to highlight their differences in color, which is clearly happening now sa aton as a people. So, if you take a look at the entire piece, the difference in colors, blue, red, and yellow, observable gid siya. The pandemic has become a competition sang mga politiko. It has become a competition among political parties. We have chosen to politicize the situation, the pandemic we are in right now, and it led us to where we are now. The battle has already stagnated. The opposite side of the entire piece is made up of brown birds, brown paper cranes, which appear to be similar with each other, pero if closely inspected, will tell you that the prints or the patterns of individual cranes are different. And this is what we hope to be in this pandemic. If ang other side, ang difference in colors, observable gid, here, the difference is very subtle. Kaya at first glance, you really would think na the same lang ni ang paper na ginagamit for the cranes. And as I said, this is what we hope to happen in the pandemic. That we set aside our individual differences, or if may difficulty man kita doing that, maybe finding ways to meet halfway so that again we reach our goal. And the goal is for us to be able to end the pandemic. The patterns of the cranes are actually very complex, and I want to highlight that as individuals, we are complex human beings. We are complicated in our own ways. And amo na that the piece, the other side of the entire piece makes us reflect. At the end of the day, everything will still depend on a deliberate choice, a choice we have to make. Kung piliun ta mag-ugyon to set aside our differences, o kung we simply let the pandemic divide us even further. When friends ask me nga kasimple sang concept, if you take a look at the entire piece, these are simply paper cranes that hang from the ceiling. And kung the paper I used, the material I used in the piece, very simple again. My forte actually is stylizing paper cranes or redesigning paper cranes, adding more elements to plain paper cranes. And the experience of working with plain paper cranes is actually a bit strange for me. Pero if I were to be asked again about those questions, ang answer ko would be because the concept of community is very simple. No, it's not rocket science for us not to be able to know what community means. It's the main message of the piece. Community. Oftentimes, we complicate things. We make the simple difficult. We tend to forget that the simple things teach us the greatest of lessons. Lessons on gratitude, humility, generosity, hope, unity, love, community, and others. So the flock invites us to behave collectively as a people, as Ilonggos, as Filipinos, as a nation. Cliche as it may sound, pero a flock that flies together, that journeys together, stays strong together.